So what do you do if you're first gen Indian American and you're in business college, but you really want to be a musician? You do what our guest this week did, Jadyn Violet. He wasn't doing well. His parents didn't understand. Then he was like, I'm going to prove myself. And to them, if I apply myself, I can do well. But this is not what I want to do. And then he boned out and he started his career in music, in Web3 and in Web2. He's also an entrepreneur and a community builder. And I met him when I entered the space a couple of years ago. And I've talked about him on here on the podcast, going to New York and going to his ultraviolet rave and stuff like that. So this episode, we discuss how a 23-year-old left business school to pursue his passion of music, understanding that hard work is just part of the journey in pursuing your dreams. Like, it's scary, but you just got to do it. If not you, who? You know what I'm saying? And then you are your own biggest obstacle. Your mindset, that's it. That's the only thing your way of pursuing and realizing your dreams. The challenging the extreme feelings into your work, how important building community authentically is in any space. And also, we discuss his dreams of owning a Taco Bell franchise and the word perspicacious that I was like, what is that word? We talk about what that is. So this was recorded in January of 2024, but I met Jadyn the year before I met him in NFT NYC. I went to his ultraviolet rave, but I met him before in the spaces because as I come from music, I wanted to see who are the players in the Web3 space. And then, it's April, it's the end of April, and I was just at NFT NYC and I saw him there too. But before that, he was doing some live thing, some live broadcast that I've never been on before. It was on Twitter, parentheses, now called X. And I was checking it out. So then I went on there and I commented saying like, oh, this is my first da-da-da. So then Jadyn did this.
What's up, Ritzy? Ritzy in the building, now she going crazy. Lazy. Her first broadcast, is it crazy? Yes, sir. Ritzy, is it coming through clear? Is it coming through clear? If you in the chat, put your hands in the air. No, I'm not.
And I was rolling. Amazing. Good times. So yeah, fantastic to speak to someone from the younger generation that gets it. Still gets it, right? Whether you're 10 or you're 49, dreams are dreams. You have to work at it. You have to take the leap. You have to work on the mindset, and you have to, for longevity, you have to show up authentically, be kind. And I love that he's from this generation, because this generation gets a lot of flack for being lazy, being complacent, all these different things. And here's an example of someone who's 22 when we recorded this, who is now 23 by the time this drops, that is making moves and not just thinking about himself like we talk about here all the time. He's thinking about the community at large and thinking about who he can uplift as he's making moves. So yeah, let's get into it. Jadyn.
Yo,
How are
yo. Doing good. Always good.
Making it happen. Thank you so much for being here today. I was thinking about how we've been in this space together for a while, and I had the honor and the privilege of being at one of your ultraviolet raves. It was last April during NFT NYC. So, but we've been in spaces, talked a little bit, but this is the first time that I'm seeing your face in the light.
Yeah.
For a significant amount of time. So you're
Facts.
good?
I'm good. I'm good. 100%. It's always nice, right? Like I remember running into you as well. I think we ran into each other at the actual conference center and then also at the actual rave, right? But then there's so many things happening. You're going to one place, I'm going to another place, right? So we, just get a split second. And I feel like that happens with so many people that I meet online and then I meet IRL, and I'm like so mad because I'm like, damn, I wish I got, a longer period just to talk with them and stuff like that, right? So it's cool, right? I
Right.
appreciate you for inviting me on this so we get to talk more because yeah, it's good to see you as well, 100%.
So let the folks know, where you grew up, where your people are from, all that good stuff to give a little background.
Yeah, 100%. So I was born and raised in New Jersey. I was actually born in Newton, which I never, ever, ever mentioned for some reason, but I was there until I was 5 years old. And then I moved to Franklin Township, which is near New Brunswick. That's probably the city that most people know. Came from an immigrant
Okay.
household. My parents were, not were, my parents are Indian, born in India. I was one of the first people that was born actually in the United States. And I'm still in New Jersey, right? So really, really interesting upbringing. It's very typical when it comes to immigrant family households. I'm sure a lot of people could relate, right? You do things and you don't really know why you're doing them until you finally discover your passion. And then you realize, wait, all of this is just things that other people kind of put onto me. And then let me actually go down my
Right.
own path. And I'm very, very grateful to find that because I know a lot of people don't. And yeah, now I'm 22, been just grinding in this dream that I have for the past 5 6 years at this point, and for the next 5 6 years as well. So it's exciting.
That's amazing. So, and I know in one of your spaces, you touched briefly on, you told your story of how you were in college. Tell the folks what was your major, and then also, do you remember that moment, that root moment when it was like, nah, I'm gonna do this.
I remember everything so perfectly, clear because I think it was so pivotal, right? And I feel like I could talk about this for a very very long time. So definitely feel free to stop me whenever. But I had a very typical Indian upbringing when it comes to school, right? Like when it comes to middle school, high school, I think for all of my years that, I've been really in the education system, I've really just been pursuing things for the sake of pursuing them, right? I was doing well in school, not because I think I'm, exceptionally smart, but, because I was applying myself. And I think anyone could do well in the things that they apply themselves to. So for me, it just happened to be school, right? When I was 12, 13, 14, and I was just doing that, with the hopes of getting into my dream business college, right? And whether it was Southern California, NYU Stern, whatever the case may be, I wanted to get into my dream business school. And I didn't really know why. It's just because, that's what my parents wanted. That's what the people around me were pursuing. I was just like, okay, this is the path that I'm going to go down, right? It wasn't until junior year of high school. Junior year of high school, that's when you apply to colleges, you do all of that stuff, and I got rejected from every single one of the colleges that I wanted to get into, except for my last option, which was Rutgers. And for me, it was very like it was a crazy moment because I was like, wow, I put my entire life into trying to get into one of these colleges, right? All for all that work to kind of be meaningless because I got rejected from each and every single one. So it was really me just reevaluating everything. And, not to say that I wasn't around art my entire life because I was, right? My dad actually sings. I used to dance when I was a kid, but
Mm,
art was always viewed as in my family as something that can't be that can't be a career. It can only be a passion. It can only be a hobby and has to stay
right.
like that, right? So I never even considered it being my career, right? Until, like I mentioned, I got rejected from all those colleges. I first started making music and I'm like, damn, I really love doing this. You know what I mean? I'm not just doing this because someone else told me to do it. I'm doing this off of like my free will. Like I'm literally sitting down when I'm bored and making music, right? And that's when it finally clicked for me that,
Right.
I need to start applying myself to something that actually makes me happy, not satisfies the societal needs, right? So that's when I started to make music. Senior year of high school was really going deep into music. And I remember the transitionary period from high school to college and first semester of college, from doing very good in all of the years of school, I failed all my classes. Every single one of my classes, first semester of
Ooh.
college, I failed them, right? Obviously, you could see how my parents would have reacted to that. They were absolutely, honestly, not even
Right.
furious. They were just very confused. They were just like, yo, what happened to you? Like you were doing so well. And,
Yeah.
now like they've seen me around, around certain people or around certain influences and stuff. And they just thought I completely taken
the bad turn in life. They think I taken the bad path in life. And of course, that mixed with the bad grades, they were just very they were very just discouraged, right? And it was very hard for me to kind of witness, because I was trying to make them understand. It's like, listen, I'm not failing in life. I'm not going down the wrong path. I'm not completely hopeless. I'm just applying myself to something that makes me happy, not you guys happy, right? And that's very hard for them to understand, right? So I remember second semester came around and I told my mom, I was like, listen, like, I haven't completely lost it. I'm not going insane. I'll prove to you by getting all good grades second semester, right? So second semester came along, and I, lo and behold, I applied myself and I got, like a 3.5 GPA. You know what I mean? I was like, boom, I told you I didn't completely lose my smartness or whatever you want to call it. And I did good, right? And then she saw that and she's like, okay, dope. Let's keep this going. Third semester came along and I dropped out, right? And I was like, I, because the second semester was basically proof for me that, like, yes, I could succeed in anything that I apply myself towards. So why can't I just apply myself towards the thing that actually makes me happy? Yes, of course,
Right.
when dropping out, it was very, very difficult for my parents. It wasn't something that I just did. Like, I dropped out. It was a month, a year, years to, long debate of going back and forth. Like, yo, let me please take a semester off. Let me take it off. And they just didn't. They didn't until they finally let off. And they were just like, okay, take a semester off. I took that third semester off and I just never went back, right? In the past 5 years, I've been just applying myself 200% to my career, to my music. Obviously, for the first year, 2 years, they were absolutely furious, embarrassed, like we were going to
Right.
family parties and they just didn't want to even like, they didn't want to say what I was doing and stuff. And the thing is, for me, I have no resentment towards that, because I understand that, right? I'm very
Right.
empathetic towards that. If I was in their position, I probably would have been the same as well, because it's very difficult to
Right.
understand, right? And I realized that I could have went down the business path. I could have been in my, classroom where the professor asked who wants to get an internship the next year and climb up the ladder, and every single kid's hand went, raised up. I could have, risen my hand and I could have gone down that path. But I know that 20 years down the line, I would have just resented my parents for it, because I'm doing something that I genuinely do not enjoy, right? So I much
Right.
rather have them not believe in me in the short term, prove them wrong, and then for the rest of my life, I can actually do something I enjoy, and they understand that as well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating to me, Jadyn, because pretty much everyone on here that I have as a guest, they're like first, second gen, right? And we got to deal with, some of us have to deal with that guilt. So you never dive off to do, like, it in the brain, right? You feel it in your soul, but you're like, ooh, well, they came to this country with nothing. And I'm over here, have an education, a roof over my head. Don't, like, but it's fascinating to me that I had someone last year, because when this comes out, this probably come out in March. She's another generation. She's like Gen X, but it's still happening with you. So did you have friends that were, part of the community, maybe cousins even, that also did that? Like, did you have someone to look as inspiration, like, oh, they did it, they broke away? Or was it just something inside you that you were just like, nah?
It's a very good question. I was just thinking about this the other day, and what I realized, right, is that most people are controlled by fear and they let it kind of take over their entire lives, right? Long story
Right.
short is I didn't necessarily have anyone, around me, whether it's my high school, whether it's my community, that also pursued this path of just trying to break out of the 9 to 5 cycle, right? Trying to break out of this rat
Right.
race, trying to do something and make a living off of something you actually enjoy, which is so simple and so very, like, obviously, it's so easy to say, right?
Right.
But you understand, right? Like, especially like, the people that I was around and stuff, right? There's kind of two categories. One category of the people that I was around when I was, growing up is they did drop out of college, right? They did do all of these things, but they did that to completely do things that did not progress their career. You know what I mean? They did,
Got
for
it.
example,
Right. Right.
they just sat at the crib, they were just out roaming around and stuff. Like, they weren't actually doing anything, or they were not passionate about anything. They didn't work hard, right? They just gave up
Right.
practically. And that's why they dropped out of college. The second group of people are people that were my friends and still are my friends, right? And they consistently tell me the things that they want to do. I want to start my own business. I'm so in love with photography and I really want to pursue
Right.
photography, but like, but I can't, but, my parents are making me do this, but, I only have 1 year, 2 years left. Oh, but I have to, get my master's. What about finances? And everything that I hear from them is just excuses, right? Excuse after excuse after excuse. And then sometimes I look at them and I'm like, man, there's really nothing that I could say to help you, because at the end of the day, you're letting fear control you so, so much. You're letting what
Right.
everyone else did kind of dictate your own path, that you're not able to actually do what you want to do. Right. And it's very easy for me to say, right? It's very easy, it's easy for me to say, but it's very difficult to actually take action on that. Right. A lot of people look at nine to
That's
fives
the
like,
part. Yeah.
that's the thing. And a lot of the times I look at the people that are chasing their passions and dreams, and for me it was not people around me, it was mostly people online. Right. It was artists that I look up
Right.
to. Right. It was like, it was
Mm.
entrepreneurs that I looked up to. Right. It was brand builders that I look up to. Right. And
Right.
it was just me, like, looking at podcast after podcast, interview after interview, and looking up to these people. Right. And really in the back of my head saying, okay, they were able to make it possible. Right. I'm a big person on
Right.
accountability. I'm a big person on, there's no entity, there's no other group holding me back from my success. There's no, the only person that's holding myself back from success is myself. Right. And
Right.
the more that people realize that, the more that they take accountability, the more they'll actually start to work to make things happen for themselves. Right. So I see these people who are super successful, right? Because I didn't really have anyone in my own community to go on this journey with me, which, is it sucks. But I had these people online, and I had to think, like, they made it, right? They're doing the things that, I dream to do, that most people dream to do, but are fearful of doing so. There's no difference between me and them. There's no difference between me and, let's say, Travis Scott. There's no difference between me and even like Jeff Bezos, for example, one of the richest mans on the world. There's no difference between not only me, but any individual and these people we put up on pedestals. The only difference is they just spent the time figuring out how to get there. And that's really
Right.
the only puzzle that people need to solve. You just need to figure out how to get there, right? And there's really no difference.
Right.
And then now, like, my entire journey is just on this idea of not making excuses, being very accountable. And, you know, I will figure out how to get there. But the only way I could do that is to not be fearful of what ifs, right? Not be fearful of, having that security of a 9 to 5 and what that would mean, and all of these things. It's
Right.
hard. It's like we're not working a 9 to 5, but we're working like a 9 to 9, and that's what's necessary in order to reach these heights. Um,
Right. We're
so
working at
yeah,
24/7.
100%, 18 hours a day,
You know what I
get some
mean? What
time
are
for sleep.
weekends? I don't know. I don't know.
For
Um, so that's interesting because I never thought of that. So say like my generation, say like millennials before you, like in between us, as far as our generation, we're pre-internet. So when we were young, internet was just a thought, right? Like it was in the background. So we didn't have access to see other people, let alone people that look like us, but just any people at all. But I see that's such a resource for your generation and younger generation. Say like my, the supernatural bear, my son who's going to be 12, like he has access, right? A free online resource to see and be inspired. So I could see how that, you know, uh, would help you. Like you didn't have really anyone around you that was doing it. Like you said, they were just hanging out at the crib, right? And everyone's like, but
yeah.
this, but felicidades, congrats to you, because I see you grinding. When I come from the music industry, and I left when it was 2006, and still have them as clients and stuff, still a part of it, artist relations, Coachella, all the festivals, all that stuff like that. So, and music, I always say music saved my life, but especially hip hop. So when I got into the space of Web3, of course, I was like, who are the movers and the shakers in this space that are, bring community together and what's happening? So it was always your spaces. You had like, the best people in there. And it was very interesting because I was like, how is this happening? And then I hear you're so young. Like I literally could be your mama. Literally could be your mama. I could have had you. And I've seen your grind. But on top of that, because so many people grind, but on top of that, Jadyn, what I really love about you is how authentic you are, how kind you are, how you're really about, you're not all about yourself. You're bringing value and bringing people together. So my next question is, you're a musician, you're an event organizer, community organizer, you host all these things, you're an entrepreneur. when in the conversation, does it matter where you're at? Do you bring the fact up that it's also you're part of the Web3 space? Like, are you, selective, or like when does that come up?
Oh, it's very very interesting, right? And I really appreciate the words as well. I think the way that I view the Web3 space is very different than how most people view it, and I think it's because people are still very very excited about being early to something, right? I think when you're early to something, that's when you have the most potential to exponentially grow, right? I am kicking myself every single day by not taking advantage of being early to early TikTok, right? When all of my
Right.
peers and my musicians online were really building their communities and blowing up because they were super early to a platform, I just kind of looked and I failed to adapt because I was nervous about showing my face on video. You know what I mean?
Same. Yes.
So it's very like it's understanding, right? But like you have to break through that. So when Web3 came, at the end of 2021 is when the music ecosystem for Web3 was really flourishing and coming up. And that's when I entered the space. I remember being super excited because I was like, yo, this is my chance to be early at something and really take advantage of it. And I remember building community. I remember sacrificing not posting on other platforms in order to truly, truly grow. And I feel like I did a good job, right? Like we have this underground Violet Rave community. We have people showing up still 3 years later and stuff. But something that I've caught myself, into the wormhole of, and other people still every single day, is that they feel like Web3 is end all be all, right? And I would have to preface this by saying that it depends on your goals, right? It all depends on your goals,
Right.
everything that you do, right? And if people are happy with, they have a 9 to 5, right? They're making a living from that. They could come to Web3, release their music as NFTs, make a few, dollar or two as side income, and then be happy with 100 fans. If you're happy, like that, it's completely fine. In 2023, I kind of found myself being so in depth in this Web3 niche that I failed to actually grow my fan base. You know what I mean? I dropped 3 songs on
Mm-hmm.
Spotify
Mm-hmm.
and Apple Music because I was so entrenched in experimenting with blockchain, talking to new projects in Web3, doing all of these things that it didn't actually contribute to my long term goal. It contributed to my Web3 success and growing my reputation within the niche of the space, but did it get me more monthly
Right.
listeners? Did it get more people to show up to my shows? Did it get me more
Right.
performances? And you can work as hard as you possibly can. You can work 18 hours every single day, but you can end up in the same exact position that you started the year off with. And I think that's the most fearful thought that I've ever had. And I think ending the year off in
Right.
2023, a lot of people can view my journey as an observer and be like, damn, like you did this, that, and the third. But me personally, really actually reflecting on everything, I'm like, wow, there needs to be so much more that needs to be done to actually progress and level up my music career. Right. So when it goes into 2024, where does Web3 kind of enter into the conversation when I'm doing all of these things? I think it's just another branch from the entire tree that we're building as ourselves as brand creators and just artists as well. And I
Right.
think too many people make this Web3 branch their entire tree and then get mad at why that tree is not reaching the masses. Right. If you really
Right.
look at Web3, it's a few thousand of people that are actively in the space. And if you look at music, it's even smaller, right? I think 3,000 wallets really in music. Don't quote me on that, but I think I read that somewhere. Memory's terrible on
Right.
statistics, but it's like, man, my end goal is selling out a stadium filled with thousands of people singing my songs back to me. That's always been the end goal ever since I dropped out of college. Being in Web3 does not change that at all, but I've lost sight of my end goal, and I have to now change my
Right.
schedule, change my actions, right? So that I actually do things that contribute to that end goal. And if that means doing 2 less X spaces a week so that I can start focusing on really leveling up my TikTok content, then I need to do
Right.
that, even though if in the Web3 space it's perceived as bad, right?
No, yeah.
So yeah.
No, that makes sense. I'm the same way. Like, I was so excited to be in this brand new space, the potential that it could have for our communities and other communities. I dove deep down, like 100%, just like you. In 2023, if you look at on the surface, you're like, oh shit, NFT NYC face on New York, New York Times Square, spoke at the UN about Web3. It looks hella successful. But because, just like you, I was so immersed in this space, gave my all to this space, that I lost sight of everything else. And I wasn't, to keep it 1,000, probably like the least amount of money that I made. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't the math wasn't mathing, right? Like it
Yeah.
wasn't. But at the end of the year, it was, for me, it was a time of reflection, evaluation, and saying like, I'm never going to give up on Web3 because that's where we're all going to be at. But how can it be a little bit more well-rounded, right? And how can I be stable so that what we're doing over here with our stuff in Web3, I can do more, I can impact more people, right? So I think we're on similar vibes. So let's, before we get into the questions and comments from the audience, why don't you give us like a brief overview of what UVR is, and also Raver Realm.
Yeah, and can I touch on that point that you really quickly said
See, see,
before
see,
I...
for sure, for sure.
So it's interesting, right? Because I also do believe that, right? Like I believe that Web3 is going to be the place where everyone ends up at, but it's not like Web3, it's just how the world progresses, right? Like Web2 is the
Right,
place where everyone in Web1 ended up in, but that's just the easier way of saying, instead of people reading newspapers at the coffee, shop, they're on their phone looking at Google or the internet, you know what I'm saying, or Instagram, right? So
right,
it's going to progress like that, but also what people don't realize is how long technology really takes to get massively adopted, right? Like it takes
right,
so long. And like in 1996, for example, right? People were saying, a majority of people were saying, I'm not going to buy a shirt online. I'm just going to go to the mall and try it on myself. Like, why would I buy something online, right? That makes no sense. I have to try it on, I have to feel
right,
it. There was a few people back then, right, that were saying, you guys just, you'll see, you know what I mean? Soon, a year or 2 years from now, everyone's going to be using the internet. In 2006, 10 years later, still a majority of people weren't trying to buy things online. 10 years later, from 1996, people were still saying that I'm going to go to the store and actually try it on, because that buying things online doesn't make sense. Heck, even my mom to this day doesn't want to put her card information on random websites because she's fearful. You know what I'm trying to
right,
say? So it's like, yeah,
right,
people will end up here, but it's going to, like, I really think it's going to take like another 10, 15, 20 years for it to even be in the conversation of everyday use, right? So yeah, I wanted to mention
right.
that, and then to your point about what the UVR is, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah,
What UV, yeah, just tell the folks like what UVR is and what Raver Realm is, like, just or whatever you want to talk about. I just want people to understand from your mouth what you do as a musician, what you've created, and like, especially like UVR, that's just not a Web3 thing. It's like a community, like in real life thing, an experience.
yeah, 100%, right? Like Underground Violet Rave is kind of the community that I curated. At the end of 2021, I realized I entered into this new Web3 space, and I'm like, wow, there's so many people here that I can meet. There's so many musicians coming in, but there's not really a music community, right? And I think community was always something that was super interesting to me, because that's the thing that's actually going to lead to the longevity and sustainability of things, right? I've always
Right.
looked at places like, or things like ASAP Mob or Odd Future, and like they've developed, or even SoundCloud culture, right? They've developed a community around specific beliefs, around their art, more importantly, and they were able to push all together. And I viewed, like, early Web3 music as something that has the potential to do that. So I was like, okay, bet. I'll create my own space, like my own little radio show network called Underground Violet Rave UVR. Started it on January 1st, 2022. We had two people in there. I was literally talking to them for 7 hours until they got bored and left. We did it every single day, for the first month, the second month, third month, fourth month. After 4 months, we've really started to see this community form. We've really started to see people join in, musicians, artists, collectors, asking questions. And someone was like, why don't you host this UVR in real life? And I'm like, you're absolutely crazy. I've never hosted an event before ever, but fuck it, let's try it out, right? So we held the first ever Underground Violet Rave in Brooklyn at June of 2022, which is almost 2 years ago at this point, which is crazy to say.
Crazy.
But yeah, June of 2022, we had about 200, 250 people from all around the world come out, which was absolutely insane. It kind of solidified for me, wow, like we're really building something, of importance, right? And the more important thing for me was like it's built off of just being authentic, like you mentioned, and just being genuine.
Right.
Because so many
Right.
music events that I've attended before entering into this Web3 space were literally just built off of egotistical and narcissistic mindsets. And I knew that that's not the environment that I want to foster, right? So
Right.
after the first one, we were like, okay, let's put the foot on the gas. Let's just keep going. So we held the second one in Virginia a month after that, a third one in Cincinnati a month after that, the fourth one in Miami Art Basel at the end of 2022. And then last year in 2023, we did one in Denver, one in LA, second one in New York, and second one in Miami Art Basel about a month ago from the time we're recording this podcast. And yeah, we've been doing these radio show spaces, Underground Violet Rave. It's like a digital rave. We try, having panels, try having open mics, all of these things, just chatting about everything and anything every single day for the past 2 years, 8 raves in 7 different cities. And now we actually
Dope.
have this, like, I'm very proud to say we have this, just this community, and like you mentioned, it's not like a Web3 community. It's not like an anything community. It's just a community, right? Because
Community.
wherever there's people who talk to each other, it's just a community, And yeah, we're gonna keep
Right.
growing it.
Dope. All right. So let's get into the questions and comments from the audience. First one. How do you decide who to feature in the UVR spaces? You always bring value to the community, but love to know how you discover who to speak with and why. And this is from WTYM episode 147 guest Steph Guerrero.
Hey, I love it. I love Steph. So, no, beautiful. I like this segment, questions from the audience. This is actually a very good question. I'm very specific with the guests that I bring on, right? It's not just someone like, okay, let's roll the finger. All right, this person, let's bring them on, right? I want to be very intentional, right? I think for
Right.
me, the thing that's most important, right? And I have to continuously remind myself of this because it's very easy to lose focus on this concept, but the things that I put out, the content that I put out, the spaces that I curate, there's always going to be a consumer on the back end, right? Which is like, duh, you know what I'm saying? It's like an obvious fact. Obviously, there's someone who's going to be listening to the spaces or reading the tweet. But I think a lot of people don't understand that, right? Because a lot of people make tweets, a lot of people make spaces on what they think is good or what they think is good. But they don't understand that you have to actually affect the person on the other end of the phone screen, right? And I think for me, when it comes to the spaces, when I invite people, right, when I curate topics and panels, for example, if I have a building community in Web3 panel, or if I have a visual artist panel, right? The people that I bring on, the questions that I ask, people, actual human beings are going to be in the audience listening to these things.
Right.
They'll know if it's bullshit and they'll know if it's valuable, right? They'll know
Right.
if it's helping them. They'll know if this is complete a waste of time, right? My goal is to just really, really create valuable conversations to the point where the people in the audience can be like, damn, this is actually helping me. Like, I'm sure everyone has this experience where they're watching a podcast on YouTube and you're just like, damn, this dude is spitting right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, this dude is just
Right.
dropping gem after gem after gem. And you get to the point where you pause the podcast, you write shit down on your notes, you play it, and you're like, yo, this podcast is lit. You recommend it to someone, right? And it's like, that's what I want people to feel when they come to my spaces, right? I want things to be fresh. I want things to not be repetitive. And at the end of the day, I just want people to learn by being in these spaces, right? And I think that's very important. And yeah, that's how I curate the panels. I also try bringing new communities into the spaces, right? So it's like, okay, like if I think this community over here that's building cool things in fashion should be introduced to the musicians in my community, let me bring them and their community on so we can have a blend and collaborate that way, right? So yeah,
Right. You're a connector. And that's how I feel. Like, I love doing that. That's like one of my favorite things. Like, oh, check out this dope person over here. Like, you guys would totally da 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 da. Okay, so the next one. This is a 3-parter from this person. First question,
cool.
I'll say them all, and then I'll say who it is, and then we can go through them. 1, what's your favorite genre of music? 2, who's the first artist who inspired you? And 3, will you own a Taco Bell franchise one day? And this is from the amazing, talented Nessie the Rilla.
Okay, bet. I like this. The second is who inspired me the most, or what artist inspired me the most?
Who's the first artist who inspired you? The first
Oh,
one
bet.
is, what's your favorite genre of music?
Easy. Okay, so the first, my favorite genre of music, I'm gonna give the most basic answer, which is there's no favorite genre because I just like everything. I make everything, honestly, right? Like I love trap music, I love pop music, electronic music. Yesterday, I literally made an acoustic singing songwriting song that I've never
Nice.
made before. Like I just like all types of genre, but that's such a boring answer, so I'll pick one. I would say trap music. I
Trap
would say
music.
trap, like subgenre of hip hop, like trap music, 2016, 2017. That type of vibe is what inspired me, honestly, to start actually making full on productions and full on songs. So I'll say that's always lit. You feel me? And I love Travis Scott. Like, so it's like it all makes sense, you know. The artist that first inspired me, right? It's easy. Michael Jackson, 100%. Yeah. Before I even knew or known that I wanted to sing, make music, any of that, I was dancing, and I was dancing because of Michael Jackson DVDs that my parents played. I was literally dancing on the table, going to functions, copying his Billie
Cute.
Jean Motown dance. Michael Jackson, 2000% is the first person that inspired me. And third, I don't think people understand how serious I am when I say this, but I'm like, I can't wait, yo, for the day when like I'm selling out stadiums, I'm doing all of these things, and in 5 6 years, and I actually have a Taco Bell franchise. I actually have like a Taco Bell franchise, right? And I'm gonna post it on X, being like, I just like I know this, right? I'm gonna post it on X with me smiling, Taco Bell in the background. I say my first ever Taco Bell franchise I bought myself, and the OG day ones, people are going to know, bro. They're going to know that, like, damn, he really did that. You know what I'm saying? And I can't wait. And I can't wait
Right.
because I'm actually excited for that. Like, music and art is my first passion, but my second passion right below that is entrepreneurship. And I can't wait for when I'm 40, 50, 60, and my music has already like really stamped itself in music history, and I'm able to just do cool entrepreneurial shit. I'm able to open my own restaurant, own a Taco Bell franchise, opening up a new bowling alley, because I think bowling alleys are very, very old right now, and I feel like there's potential for someone to completely change the game. That's a whole other concept. But like, just do cool shit. Just do cool shit, you
Right.
know? So
Right.
yeah.
Dope. Taco Bell. Talk now every and I rarely see Taco Bells, but if I ever hear about Taco Bell, immediately think of you. And then I also think of when we were in Onaji B space. Shout out to Onaji
Oh
B,
yeah, I
shout
remember
out
that, yeah.
to Boss B. You were on there and you were getting it because they were like, you went to LA, you didn't have that. Like, we were having this whole taco debate, right? And then what was your favorite thing to talk about? I think that was
Yeah.
just like comedy. Okay, Jadyn, this is the time of the show where we do the not so rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. Are you ready?
Oh, okay, okay, let's get slow.
3 words to describe yourself.
Um perspicacious.
What?
Um perspicacious.
I've
like
never heard that word in my life. What does that mean?
like
How do you
very
spell it?
just very I can't spell that shit. Very like very focused, determined, resilient is probably the best way to describe that.
What is it?
Perspicacious.
Perspicacious. Okay, we'll look it up. We'll put it on there. Okay, that's one word.
Yeah. Ve- yeah, that's one word. Second is, creative. I would say I'm a very, very creative individual when it comes to everything, not just music and art, but like I like to be creative in all sense with my content. Like I actually I enjoy that a lot. Um and the third is just I can't really say resilient because that falls into the first descriptive word. But the third would be very man, hardworking is such a basic word. I can't say hardworking. You know what I mean? I'll say focused. I'm very, very
Mm.
focused on my goals, on what I want to accomplish. There's really nothing that could take me away from my goals. Honestly, like it has to be something amazing. There's no girl, there's no friend group, there's nothing that could take me away from the things that I want to accomplish. So yeah, I'll say focused.
Focus. Nice. Okay, the next one. What's the best piece of advice you received?
Best piece of advice that I received. I'm actually gonna get this tattooed on myself, but it's why not you? Why not
Ah,
you?
love that. I
Yeah, I think
love that
it's
so much.
yeah, it goes back to what I was saying before, where it's like we see all these successful people, right? Like, Drake, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Travis, like we see all these successful people, and it's just like, yeah, they did it. There's no difference between you and them as a human level. It's like, yeah, why can't you do that too? You know what I mean? I think so many people hold back their potential. So yeah, why not you?
Where are you getting it tattooed? What part of your body?
You know, it's crazy. I have zero tattoos, but I'm someone who always says I want so many tattoos. I want so many tattoos, but I just like literally am so indecisive. That should have been one of my descriptive words. I'm so indecisive that I can't figure out where. Probably like right here. Probably like right here.
Right. I'm the same way. But always, I was like, oh, I love the way it looks, like sleeves and stuff. Especially growing up, it was a time where if you had tattoos, it meant something. Like if you had a grip of tattoos, it meant you were like out, an outsider, an outlier. Now anyone can get tattoos, but
Yeah.
I'm just the same way. I was like, but I don't know which ones. Like that's a lot to think about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have this
Oh,
one
sick.
right here, and
Sick.
this is by Chaz Bojorquez, one of the legendary artists, and it's my name in his style, and
Ooh.
it reminds me of yours. It's like, why not you? Like why not me? Right? And this is my that's Ritzy is not my government name, but Ritzy is you know
Mm.
how I was able to bounce from my 9 to 5. It's what I do now. It's the umbrella. It's me. It's the real me. I feel like so I wanted to get it here, big in this style by someone that I look up to in the community to remind me all the time, like this is why you do it. Like you're doing it right. Like why not me? Like
I
don't
like that.
be
Yeah.
basic, kind of sort of. Okay, this is a great question, especially when it comes to creatives. What's the song, your go-to song, when you need to get hyped?
Oh, hyped. Phew. Shit.
Motivation.
Uh,
You need the motivation. What's the like? Like it's just been with you for a long time. You put it on,
yeah.
it changes the game for you.
Yeah, there's so many songs that I could say. I'll have to shout out. I haven't shouted out Travis Scott this entire podcast, so I have to shout out the legend and say it's definitely him, and it'll probably be Houston Fornication. Right? There's nothing extremely special about that song. You know what I mean? I think music is so important and magical because what could be special for one person could be completely irrelevant for another person because it's all based on what experiences you tie to the actual sounds. Right. And for me, Houston Fornication, it's on
Right.
his album Astroworld. It's one of like the last songs. So a lot of people would even consider that his worst song on that album. Right. But for me, it's my favorite song of all time, that gets me very hyped because just the point I was in my life, right? Like it was when I broke up with my first ever girlfriend after 2 years. I was, starting to discover music. I was thinking about dropping out of college, and like in the song, it says
Mm,
it ain't easily done, it ain't easy, right? And like just hearing Travis say that, like, man, I'm at the top, but it's not easy, right? Like things that you want to accomplish, it's not easy. Right. And when you're really down, when you're discouraged, when you fail like 5 times in a row, when you work 18 hours and zero progress is made, you should smile because it's supposed to be like this. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be very difficult. It's
right.
supposed to be hard. If it wasn't, then there's no fun. There's no fun in it, right? So, yeah.
Right. Dope. So that's going to be added to the Word to Your Mama guest hype song playlist that we have on Spotify. So everyone's songs that
Ooh,
are put on there. I believe Travis Scott is on there already, especially because I just have, dope people from different age brackets.
hell
But
yeah.
I'm pretty sure if he's on there, it's not that song. So that'll be the
Mm-mm.
first time. And we'll have a link in the show notes to all of Jadyn's stuff and also to this playlist. And then when his episode comes out, go to the playlist. It'll be the first one on the top of the track.
Bet,
So,
bet. Let's get it.
and I'll definitely put his music on there too. Please believe it. So, final question: what will be your legacy, Jadyn?
It's a really good question, too. What will be my legacy? I think, there's a real reason why, like, I try my best to be very authentic and genuine, right? And, like, when people meet me, like, even when you said, like, yo, like, I just love how authentic and genuine you are, I'm just like, a part of me doesn't understand it because I'm just like, damn, like I'm just like, why, like it's just being a human, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times, like I see people's conversations and I see someone like insult someone else, and then I look at them and I see how they hurt them, and I'm like, do you not understand how like you're affecting other people's feelings with your words? Do you not understand how your actions affect other people negatively? And a lot of people I feel like just don't, a lot of people just
Right.
don't, like, and it's so crazy to me, right? And like I don't know what it is, but for me, right, like I guess I've just been around so many people that just don't, right? So for me, I want to be the opposite. I want to be someone that like really makes it and accomplishes all their things. that accomplishes all the things that I set out to accomplish, through just being genuine and nice. I want to be looked at, especially my legacy, as someone that like just always had this goal and like did it. Like I just want people to look at me, like my son especially. I don't have a son, but when I have a son, and he, I always envision this feeling like if he has a dream and he asks me like, Dad, like, I how do I get there and stuff, like I have to be able to say that it was hard for me, but I got there. I can't
Right.
envision a path of me saying that I wasn't able to get there, right? So I have to, and I just want that to be my legacy. I want my legacy to be like, I had these goals and I accomplished it, right? Just by working hard every single day, right? And like, yeah, I
Right.
think I want to be very prideful of that. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you're well, on your way with your legacy, Jadyn. It's a beautiful thing to see, especially like, someone from your generation. I don't what are you? Alpha? Z? What generation?
I don't even know what they do with the letters these days.
But you're 22, right?
Yeah.
So like it's great to see that there's folks like you of color, first gen that are breaking the mold, being an example. Like I'm sure you got, cousins and people in the neighborhood that, you could be that example. Like, oh, Jadyn, da, 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 like he's doing this and he's not just, oh, has a dream. But I think what people need to understand, you can dream all you want and you can take action, but you need to have that focus and that drive because, like you said earlier, this shit isn't easy. This shit is hard. Like, if it's obstacles, then you're going in the right direction, right? Like, if there's obstacles, but you still keep persevering and still keep working on it, then you're in the right direction. And also, I love what you said because it doesn't matter if you're 9 or you're 59. The only thing in your way is yourself, and it's up here. It's this
Yeah.
mindset, right?
100%.
Like, and I think it's very interesting how we're going to end 2024 because you and I have had like a little bit of the conversation where I can be, this is for the podcast. This is like, this year will be the beginning of it being more on video and on YouTube and
Mm.
stuff. But before I was recording on video, but it wasn't the video wasn't coming out. It was just the audio. I can do this all day. But when
Yeah,
it's time to put the camera on me, right? It's like, how do we have to get used to that. And it's another fear thing, but we do it anyways, right? So you and I
Yeah.
were like, well, how do we, so it'll be interesting how we end 2024, right? And then we'll be like, oh, that's silly, that what we used to think. So before we leave, I had a question about, and I think people that are listening would want to know, what do you need to do to get into that songwriting space? Is it a place? Is it a time of day? Or is just inspiration? How do you get in that zone?
For someone that's never songwritten before and wants to get into it, right? I think you just start. You know what I mean? You literally just start. And I think like I could say so many different things, right? I can say that, you need experiences to pull from, you need to practice, you need to do all these things, but I think all of those things are just kind of things that you add before starting the actual thing. You know what I mean?
But
The
how do
best way
you
to
do it? Like, what's your zone? Like,
what's my zone?
yeah, for
Okay,
you
okay.
personally, like what do you have to do? Like, is it a space? Is it that desk? Like,
Yeah.
where, like, what's your your routine?
The best way for me to get in my absolute zone is to get heartbroken, right? So that's number one, but that's not happening anytime soon. But but that's like the like crazy experiences when they happen to you, right? Like I feel like a lot of people can really go down on themselves because of that, whether it's a super negative experience or super positive. I feel like I've gotten into a very good place where I can recognize that and be like, okay, I'm feeling something extreme. I could channel that into making music and songwriting, right? So whenever I have these extreme feelings, right, whether I get like, I don't know, like like some crazy thing happens and I'm feeling very sad or something, I know that okay, this is the zone that I am supposed to be in order to really create stuff of substance, right? So yeah, I think just channeling really extreme feelings and then going into songwriting is always the best. Lately I've been really just scheduling out time in my calendar because I'm so like busy that sometimes I don't make music and I have to, right? So I'm like, okay, these 2 hours, whether I feel like it or not, I'm gonna force myself
Right,
to sit down and make it. And usually after 30 minutes of not feeling it, I just start feeling it. You know what I mean? And start vibing. So
right. It's that discipline, right? Like you have to get in. Sometimes you have to force yourself in the zone a little bit, or at least put something out. like write something, ship some shit down, and then that could spark what's going to be the real stuff, right? Like that can be the
Exactly.
catalyst to that other zone. I think that's across the board for any creative, whether you're, a painter, whatever. It's just like setting, time aside to, because we have so many things, especially now with the internet and social media, so many things at us all the time. But if
Yeah.
we allow ourselves a little, 15, 20 minutes of that quiet zone to get in that space, I think, some things can happen to start creating again. So Janet, let the people know what do you have coming up in 2024? Where can they look for you? All that stuff that you mentioned is going to be in the show notes, but let us know what's up for you.
Bet 100%. So, Jadyn Violet, the things that I have coming up in 2024, you'll definitely hear my name. You know what I mean? I'll make sure of it because I have so many things that I'm going to be working towards. I really want to just take over everything, right? So I'm super excited to just work hard and do that. But to my music, Jadyn Violet, everywhere: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, platforms, TikTok, X, Instagram. Jadyn Violet, literally everywhere. And then yeah, I just have a lot of music coming out that I plan on reaching a lot of people with. So just stay in tune and just stay on the lookout for my name, and hopefully I'll do a good job so you come across it.
Dope. Well, muchísimas gracias, Jadyn. This is great. I'm looking forward to seeing you, hopefully more in real life, and continuing all these amazing conversations. Because you're such a community organizer, and like I said before, I've been to, both of us have been to events in these spaces and other industries that have mad money, but
Hmm.
the experience that I've had is not the same as something like your event, or one of people have said about our events, where we may not have the crazy big money behind it, sponsorships, not yet though, not yet.
Yep.
And
Not
then
yet.
but we were still able to create these amazing experiences, right? So I'm super excited to see when is the first one of 2024? Do you think the next UVR, or is that a secret?
Oof, nothing decided yet. Yeah, nothing decided yet. Really.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Well, we're super excited. Well, muchísimas gracias. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you soon.
Love.
Yeah. There you have it, folks. Jadyn Violet. Jadyn Violet. Fantastic to talk to the generation and hear that the kids are going to be all right, especially with innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders. And when we're talking about how he got so much flack on that Twitter space that he was talking about tacos, he was talking about when he was in LA, they were like, oh, but you went to LA, did you try, authentic tacos? And he was like, yeah, I don't understand soft tacos. Like, he was just talking mad shit about tacos, and he was getting so much flack. And then recently I was in a Twitter space and he was talking about he watched all of the Twilights, all the Twilight movies. And then people were saying something about Harry Potter, and he was saying how he hates Harry Potter, going against the grain. That's what Jadyn does, goes against the grain. So yeah, make sure to follow him. He's doing a lot of amazing things. I think he's always thinking about marketing and strategy and what is the best way to balance your efforts and show up authentically online on all the different socials and capture people's attention, keep people intrigued so that the return on the engagement is there. So I think it's very fascinating to follow his trajectory, to see how successful he is in it, to see if he's going to end up playing at a stadium like he said, and also is he going to get that taco franchise. To be my age right now, 49, and still pivoting and doing different things and super excited about stuff, feeling like I still haven't completely figured it out because I keep evolving, and then seeing someone that's 23 years old that's already has some things unlocked and is finding his way, it's exciting for me. It's like, am I going to be around to see when he is like, 40, 50 years old, and he's my age, to see what he's accomplished and also how things have changed. Because if you're that young and perhaps you're not living on your own and doing the full blown adult life and adulting, then maybe when you get into that, things change. Things change when you have a kid, multiple kids. Your priorities change, your perspective change, because some things that you didn't understand, now you understand. I don't know. Anyways, it's fascinating. But anyways, thank you so much for supporting, for watching, for listening, all those different things. I'm dressed like this because I'm about to put on a jacket, drive to LA to go to surprise birthday party for Uncle Billy. It's his 45th and it's 80s theme. So, you got to go 80s hip hop. I don't have a big I don't have a big chain, but I went this because, balance out. But I got my old school Pumas on. I got the members only jacket that I got. Basically, I'm dressing how I regularly dress, but more of the 80s theme. So it should be fun. And also, don't forget that in the summer, late summer, launching a new podcast that's called Emerging Tech Journeys. Just how Word to Your Mama, we amplify diverse voices from all the different industries that I come from, because my tribe is dope. So it's either art, music, emerging tech, and activism and all the things in between. Then Emerging Tech Journeys is about amplifying diverse voices in emerging tech. So it's like, who's using the latest technology, the latest tools that are of color or that are allies, and why are they doing it, and why it's important for us to even know about it, to enter the spaces so that we're not left behind. Because that's really important to me. And I feel like I have, some Web3 people like Jadyn that was just here, and, a couple of others. But this is going to be just kind of more of a concentrated 30-minute or so episode where we find out why emerging tech, what are they doing, how can it change things, how is it changing the game, and why should we know about it. It is more geared towards people that listen to this show, regular folks that maybe have no idea. So it's conversations that you can digest and really see why all this is important. Maybe you want to be early, maybe you're going to be later, but you understand the importance, and you are kept abreast of what's happening and why we should be involved. Black and brown, indigenous, and beyond. Marginalized folks, basically. So yeah, the ways to support. You got the store, kids. You got the store. Look in the show notes. There's a coupon code for the store. Always. I got one of the shirts on always. I am my ancestors' vengeance. Please believe it. And super easy way to support is tell your folks, tell your peeps, tell your friends, and leave reviews. Star it. Leave a review. Say, yeah, this is dope, so that more people can see it. Subscribe. Go to YouTube. I think we're up to 66 folks that have subscribed. Let's get those numbers up and let's get those views up so we get more people to know about these dope ass folks in my tribe. Let's do it. All right. And as always, we reap